Does sex exist? The first volume of the history of sexuality is probably best known for Foucault's superficially counterintuitive attack on what he calls the repressive hypothesis concerning sex. The accepted idea, which Foucault sets out, as most of you know, to reverse, is that we have been living for at least 3 centuries in a regime of sexual repression, one in which sex, subject to general rules of prohibition, censorship, and denial, has been reduced to invisibility and silence. We have only to open our eyes, more exactly our ears, to recognize that, as Foucault puts it, we talk about sex more than anything else. We convince ourselves that we have never said enough on the subject, as if what is essential about sex keeps eluding us, so that we must always start out once again in search of it. It is possible, this is all of Foucault, quote, "It is possible," he concludes, "that where sex is concerned, the most long-winded, the most impatient of societies is our own," end quote. Impatient, however, not to enjoy the fruits of our sexual liberty, but rather to indulge in that endless discourse through which power in modern Western society has most effectively been exercised. For Foucault, the stakes in this exercise of power are much higher than sexual freedom or repression. He is interested in considerably more than drawing our attention to the paradoxical relation between the control of our sexuality and the apparent freedom with which we are encouraged to talk about sex. Intrinsic to that paradox is the production of a certain type of subjectivity. Indeed, Foucault would soon realize that his intended history of sexuality would inevitably become a question of how the West has conceptualized the human subject. If we are encouraged to talk about our sexuality, it is, Foucault argues, because sex has become the key to who we are. The truth about our sex, which is to say the truth about our desires, has become the truth of our being. I quote, "A regulated and polymorphous incitement to discourse," unquote, "is the major strategy within a generalized and remarkably effective exercise of power, a disciplinary exercise that aims ultimately to control our being by normativizing our desires." Furthermore, contrary to the assumption of the sexual libertarians who have promoted the repressive hypothesis, the desiring subject is anything but transparent. From the Christian pastoral to the psychoanalytic consulting room, we have had to work to find the secrets of our desires, to transform our sexuality into an essentially confessional discourse. Our sex is our secret, a secret we keep not only from others, but also from ourselves. The most profound identification of this identification of our essence with the secrets of sex has been, as Foucault suggests, to produce a divided subject. Knowledge of the subject has become knowledge of that which divides him, perhaps determines him, but above all causes him to be ignorant of himself. What psychoanalysis asks us to accept as an ahistorical truth about the human subject is, for Foucault, the product in the history of an exercise of power. For psychoanalysis, the division between conscious and unconscious is constitutive of mental life. From a Foucauldian perspective, that division is the structural fiction that sustains, as Foucault puts it, the science of the subject that has gravitated in ever narrower circles around the question of sex. We might add that the divided subject could be seen as the psychic version of a fundamental dualism of being, most notably formulated in the modern period by Descartes. The ontological distinction between res cogitans and res extensa has been taken up as a division within mind itself between consciousness and the unconsciousness.